What's up, you guys? It's Scrub Tier Yu-Gi-Oh! Here, bringing you my dedicated blind second True Draco deck profile. Before we get started, please subscribe and leave a like and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But without further ado, here we go. Kamani really flipped the format on its head with that recent ban list, and it really did make going second a lot more viable. I was also kind of experimenting with this particular build before the ban list, and I was finding some decent success with it online, so now it's performing really well. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get straight into it. We're going to start off with our monsters first. We're going to start off with 3 copies of Ignis Heat, the True Draco Warrior. Now, Ignis Heat is one of the best cards in this deck, because what he does is he either lets you search or activate a spell card every time your opponent activates a card or effect. And that is absolutely huge inside of this deck, because your spell cards are the way that you're going to be generating a lot of advantage. Now that's kind of the whole point of this deck these days. With Masterpiece gone, this deck is no longer about turboing out a boss monster. It's about just simply out-resourcing and out-surviving your opponent, and Ignis is one of the most vital cards to doing that. Moving on, we're also going to play 3 copies of Majesty's Maiden, the True Draco Caster. Now, to be honest, I really don't want to see this card, because if you're playing Majesty Maiden, you're already kind of behind, because it adds another step into your whole resource engine. However, with that being said, Maiden can turn into one of the best comeback pieces. If you do find yourself down and out, she can restart the whole deck and get it going again, because she searches your monsters. So she can search either Ignis or Dynamite. You know, she can search whatever combo piece you need, and they can further search out more cards. And she really is a comeback from the face of defeat kind of card, not really a I want to make this card turn 1 kind of card. Now, speaking of Dynamite Knight, we are going to run the 1 copy of Dynamite Knight. You're not playing Draco without playing this card. Dynamite is just exactly like the other 2, except he lets you search your trap cards. And the trap cards are kind of the more important cards in this deck, because they help you to break boards, and they also do a really good job of keeping your opponent down. We don't really have a whole lot of interaction on our opponent's turn, and they're kind of the only way to do it. So with that in mind, you know, it kind of helps you make your opponent's life difficult. And he really is a good monster, and combos really well with Maiden, because if he activates you a trap card during your opponent's turn, Maiden searches you a monster, you've just searched out a piece of disruption. And so, you know, it's a really great card in this deck. Now, for the final True Draco monster, we're actually going to run a single copy of Metaltron 12. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this card because it takes a lot of resources to tribute summons it. And the only real answer I can give you that is don't tribute summon it. Plain and simple, the best application for this card is to be destroyed off of Diagram to get a search, and then special summons back to the field via True King's Return. So 99.99% of the time you're not going to tribute summons him, because if you do, it's going to be an all or nothing kind of play. You're going to put all your eggs into that basket, and if he dies, you just kind of lose, because you've lost 3 resources into playing this one guy. Now, to be fair, if you do find yourself in a situation to tribute summon him out, he is a 3k beater immune to all card effects. So, you know, in some situations he can just straight up win you games. So, it just depends, but the majority of the time you're going to be popping him with Diagram and special summons. You're not going to tribute this card very often. Moving on, we are going to play a couple of hand traps, just in case you do end up having to go first. We're just playing 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit and 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Now, these are just all-around good hand traps. You don't necessarily have to run these 3. You can run whichever really suits your fancy. I just chose these 2 because I just feel like they're the best ones for the format right now. Now, Ash Blossom did just recently get a couple of reprints, so it is majorly cheap. You can pick these cards up for a lot cheaper than you think. Now, since we are going to be going second, we're going to play a small Kaiju engine. We're simply going to run 2 copies of Gamma Seal and 1 copy of Jizukiru, because we are also going to run 1 copy of Slumber. You're going to want to give yourself the Jizukiru and your opponent the Gamma Seal. And they're just really great cards. You know, Kaijus just bust boards by themselves. You know, they're a 1 card out to just about every card can be outed via Kaiju. So, you know, crazy U-Link boards, hey, you got a Trigate there, Kaiju it. It's just, it they break boards by themselves. The one thing that I will say about these cards is be careful giving your opponent the Gamma Seal, because there are still a couple of World Chalice variants running around that use that card for their negations. Next, we're going to go ahead and move into our spell cards. Now, this section is a little more typical, but we do have some spicy text in here to make it all scrubified. Firstly, there are your True Draco spell cards. Now, you're not playing this deck without running 3 copies of both Heritage and Disciples. Heritage is your combo extender, while Disciples is your grind game card. Heritage allows you to just keep going. It lets you draw more resources every single turn. And Disciples lets you put those resources back into the deck so you can just kind of outlive your opponent. Because that's essentially what our game plan is here. We're not going to be breaking boards and no TKing in a single turn. You simply want to outlast your opponent. And most decks these days, if you break that turn 1 board, they're just screwed. And that's really what those kind of decks are, the ones that we prey on here. However, moving on, next we're going to talk about the key card of the deck, Draconic Diagram. This card needs no introduction. It is awesome. You simply pop a card, search one archetypal thing from the deck. Now, it does have effects that a lot of people don't actually talk about often. It does give all of your True Draco monsters a 300 attack point boost, and it does prevent them from being destroyed by battle the first time they would be destroyed. So all in all, it's a really great card. It fetches you anything that you need. It's an awesome card. It just got reprinted, so they're stupid cheap to pick up, and you're going to need 3 of them. Next, we get into a whole slew of 1-ofs. We're going to start with 1 copy of Card Destruction. This card is actually quite powerful inside of this deck. It is a reset button if you get unlucky in Brick, which, is possible. If you don't draw any monsters or don't have any way to get to your monsters, you're going to have a rough time. And this card helps fix your hands. And at the same time, it screws your opponent's hand up too. They've got some kind of hand trap, or if they're playing Herald, it can be really, really powerful. And it also sets up Disciples to be live. If you draw into it, you dump a bunch of cards into the graveyard, shuffle them back with Disciples, and draw another card. And it also combos with our next card, Metalfoes Fusion. Now, most people are going to look at this card and just go, what? Why Metalfoes Fusion? Now, there is a very simple explanation of this card. It's a once per turn upstart without giving your opponent's life points. You can pop this card with Draconic Diagram and get a +1. Diagram searches, Fusion, puts itself back in the deck, draws another card. Really great way of generating card advantage. And if you don't have a diagram, you can set it next to one of your spell cards, perform a tribute summons, and then the spell can blow it up and shuffle it back and draw another card. And if you pitch it off of Card Destruction, turns Card Destruction from a -1 into a net neutral. All around, it's a really great card in the deck, and I don't know why more people don't play this card. Speaking of Upstart, though, we are going to play a single copy of Upstart Goblin. It's just simple consistency. It turns the deck from 40 cards to 39. There's nothing really more to say about it. It's Upstart Goblin. Moving on, the next limited card we're going to play is the Monarch Stormforth. Now, obvious synergy is obvious, but it is a stupid powerful card. It's a board breaker. It forces your opponent to use negation. It's an awesome card. It's non-targeting, non-destruction removal, and it also lets you get one of your True Dracos on the field. Overall, it's a fantastic card, and it's helpful every time you see it. Next, we're going to move on to 2 of the more important spells in this deck, but they're essentially the same, so we're just going to talk about them together. And of course, we're talking about Raigeki and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Now, Raigeki it doesn't need any explanation or introduction. You drop it and nuke the board. It's a great card, fantastic. Definitely deserves to be limited. Slumber, on the other hand, there is some strategy to it, and there are some things I do want to say about it. First off, every single time I've ever resolved this card, I've won the game. It gives you so much momentum. It nukes your opponent's board, and it gives you a 3300 beater all in one run. It's such an amazing card. Like I said, every time I've resolved it, I've won the game. Because if you slumber your opponent and you don't win, there's just a problem. You're just having issues. And last but certainly not least is Monster Reborn. Now this is probably the most flexible card in this deck because it has many applications. It doesn't just do the same thing every time. It's more, it kind of molds to what situation you're in, and it gives this deck more flexibility than normal. Because it'll give you emergency tribute fodder. If you don't have any other way of getting your Dracos on the field and you're going second, you can Monster Reborn, snatch a monster out of your opponent's graveyard, tribute summons. Boom, there you go. Start going. It can mess up graveyard shenanigans. You know, things like Trick Clown and Thousand Blade and stuff like that. You know, snatch it out and just don't use it. Just leave it on your board and they can't keep recycling the Thousand Blades or the Trick Clown. It's an awesome card. One combo that I do love with it is after you use Slumber and you give yourself Jizukiru, you can use Diagram, blow the Jizukiru up and get a search, and then Monster Reborn, bring the Jizukiru right back. Yeah, you're still technically going -1, but you don't lose any board presence because of it. And all around this is a great card, and I'm very happy to have it back. And finally, we're going to run into the trap cards. Now, we don't run a whole lot of trap cards relative to other builds because we don't want to go first, so we don't want a lot of trap cards clogging our hand up going second. We're simply going to run one copy of both of the True Draco traps. Apocalypse saves your ass in a pinch, halving the attack points of your opponent's monsters, and Return has well deserved its limited status. It special summons the stuff back all the time, and it'll be the main way that you'll be summoning Metaltron 12. Definitely great card, deserves to be limited. Next we're going to move into the only floodgates we play. We're just going to play 2 copies of Rivalry of Warlords, just because that card is just, it's so good. It's too good to ignore. It basically makes every other deck's life hard and can single-handedly win you a game. And the very last card that we're going to play in this deck is the MVP board breaker of the deck, Evenly Matched. This card is a blowout. If you resolve Evenly Matched, you're going to win. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can't screw it up if you resolve this card. You bait any disruption they've got, sacrifice your battle phase, make them banish every card they control except one face down. It's an awesome card, and I wish I could play more than 3 of it, honestly. It's awesome. Nothing else to be said about it. Alrighty, you guys, so that's it for my blind second True Draco deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, please leave a like and comment your thoughts down below. I will see you guys next time, and don't forget, be a scrub.